paparazzi has started.
Bye.
Race tomorrow. The more familiar you are with the layout and what's expected of you, the better your day will be and the better our day will be. And everybody will be just a little bit happier. And as I said before, any questions you've got, talk to Renee.
We were coming out there. I said to
Shorts thing, you know.
Too soon, but
I had no idea.
once you go back, there ain't no need to turn around. Might as well just push through.
What was so bad?
I'm always telling people, I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. Everybody else thinks, oh boy, wow, she's a morning person. She loves getting up at 4 a.m. It's just as hard for me to get up at 4 a.m. and do it as anybody else. I did about 3 when I was in my early 30s, and then when I was about 54, I started back doing triathlons, so now this is going to make number 73.
Folks are located. Official Ironman.
I've seen people compete in triathlons that I would have had no idea that they could do that. And I learned very quickly that you can be heavy and you can still be fit. Just because somebody's heavy doesn't mean they're not fit. I had the opportunity one time to go to New Orleans with some friends that were doing the first 70.3 I ever went to. When I saw them come out of the water and they went to the wetsuit peelers and they were taking their wetsuits off, I realized then that these were not people that just were skinny and lean. They were everyday people that you wouldn't realize was a triathlete. I had some friends that I went and watched them do a triathlon one time, and I was really amazed. I had bicycled when I was, of course, a kid, and I'd bicycled when I was in high school, but nothing like what we do now. My first 5 triathlons I did with my head up. I still was not able to swim with my face in the water. I wasn't a great runner, but put it all together, and it just was something that was a challenge that I really enjoyed doing. To me, it's a way to keep yourself motivated, to stay healthy, push yourself to the limits, and I like doing it because you mix so many different sports, and you have to stay on track. You have to be disciplined to be able to do a triathlon because you've got to be doing all 3 sports at some point in time in the same week, and you need to do strength training in addition. So I think it's a good way to stay very fit.
Where's your mama? Dawson.
Don't worry.
I'll hold it.
I need a minute.
When you first get in, it'll be a little
We don't want to do
Guys, if you don't want to swim the whole thing, get on there.
Oh, is that what I'm
Yep.
sorry.
That's right.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
I made it too.
So she did good.
I was like between 39 and 40, I think. We gotta go Boston. Like a bridge. I was like, I've got a long ways to go.
Well, she asked me after the second read. She said, "Are we halfway done?" I was like, "No, we still got about a mile to go."
You better not be doing audio.
There you go.
So,
Emily.
Tammy did okay.
Yeah.
She did it in 45. So, they, I peed twice in my wetsuit.
She did. She said,
I said, "Okay."
probably pee. Probably like sweat.
We already checked out our hotel room.
Oh, God. It's about half
That was
mile
Jesse's
long.
suggestion.
If you know anything about the current, then it matters. If you don't know.
I really want others to know that anyone can do it. There's some young athletes in Tupelo that the wife is 23 and the husband's 27, and they did their first 70.3 recently. And I realized that I was a good role model to them. And they're both really slender, and they're young, and they're very athletic and very healthy. And they were like, "You just don't realize how much you have encouraged us and motivated us." For many years, I was always scared of being the very last finisher. And one year, I realized that being the last finisher was not a disgrace. I was at a race in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and it was an Olympic, and the females did not get to start until last. When I got out of the water, I think my bicycle was the last one there. When I got back off my bike and I started the run, one of the first water stops I stopped at, a young girl looked at my age, it was on my leg, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you're my mother's age." She said, "I can't wait to go home and tell my mom there was somebody that was her age here doing this triathlon." At the next rest stop, there was a young girl and a young boy, and the young girl was probably about 16, and I said, "Hey, you want to run with me?" And she looked at me like I had two heads and said no. And her little brother was about 9, and his name was Parker. And Parker said, "I'll run with you." And so I said, "Okay, come on." Well, his grandmother was working, his grandfather, I think, was working the water stop, and he's like, "Sure, he can go." And so he starts running with me, and he's quite the little chatterbox, and he kept talking, and we were running along, and he was saying, "Do you think we'll get a medal?" And I was like, "I don't know, we'll have to wait and see if we do or not." And so he and I ran through sprinklers in people's yards and that sort of thing. And so then it just kind of, at this point there was nobody else out there. And this other lady had passed me. I didn't realize she was in my age group, and she had passed me. And so then this little boy's grandmother came by and checked on him, and he was still good. And he said, "I've only ever run 1 mile in my entire life." And so we had 3 miles to go. And so as we got close to the end, several people came out to finish with us. And at that point, I realized I was completely the last one. And so I was the very last finisher. And when I got there, they were waiting on me to finish the awards because I had gotten second in my age group, because there was only 2 women in my age group that was competing in the Olympic. And when I got the award, it was actually a alligator head, like a rope. And so we didn't get any other medal. And so I gave Parker that alligator head, and he was so excited. And his grandparents came over there and they said, "Parker's wanting to take a picture with you." And so in the long run, which was really what I thought was a terrible race day, became the race day that I probably remember the most as having the most gratification, because he was just so excited that day, and he had run 3 miles and he'd never run that far in his life. And he was just delighted. And so I realized that it wasn't all about winning. A lot of times just finishing is absolutely a big win.
Whoa, let's get it. Girl, when I first got the bike, I thought, I don't know if I can do this. What? Okay.
Well, you can.
Well, it's not going to be a PR, that's for darn sure.
That's okay. Hey, all that matters is the bling at the end. That's all that matters.
Got this, y'all got this.
Let me see, Mom.
Enough for from the time that you go into the water to start a triathlon, it's just like kind of like mind over matter, and your body just responds, and you just keep pushing forward. I think the first time that I completed a 70.3, and I did it under the time limit, that was a big success. It's great when I go to a triathlon and people holler and encourage you and stuff, and you know that you realize that they know you, and getting others interested. As I said, when they look and they realize this is a 63-year-old woman that is not slender, and she's not the greatest of any of the three sports, but she's out here and she competes, and most of the time she places. So that's, you know, that's the whole. I think it's the whole package.
Any final words of wisdom from your journey as a triathlete, or anything, life advice you want to share? Any last words?
Have fun, enjoy it to the fullest, find new ways, find new people to motivate. That's what helps me tremendously. It's always kind of a running joke among my friends is, if I find somebody struggling while I'm doing it, that's when I can really excel, is when I'm encouraging them and motivating them to finish it. So many times I've motivated people at some point during the triathlon, then ended up, they finish before me, but they'll be waiting on me to thank me for helping them get through it.
You see the little white buoys? That's where they're going to put the other buoys for racing.
Did Tammy already go in?
Hi, I'm Kathy Haynes, and I am a triathlete. I had this med-peds guy one time. He had never done triathlon before in his life. And Greg, it was at the Heart of Dixie, and Greg had some water in there, and he'd given me a frozen bottle of water. Well, it was hot, and I had that frozen bottle of water between my breasts. And this guy was dying, and like the water stops like a mile apart, but y'all, I'm telling you, it was July, Philadelphia, Mississippi, and it was hot. He was dying, and he was only about 26. And I stopped when he was just dying on me. Never done triathlons, but he talked him into doing triathlon. I said, this is not triathlon you should have started with. And I gave him, we laughed, but I pulled that water out of my bosom and gave him water. And then he was able to get on, and he waited on me and came and when I finished and thanked me so much. But he was a Med-Peds resident at UT. Wow. So, but you know, they like Oscar last year. That was just, and you know, when that triathlon in Florida, I made this guy friend during the bike, and he called me Mama. And so I was relaying, and then he was doing the whole thing. So after I changed clothes, I waited and watched him run by a couple times, and I'd holler and I'd go, Oscar, it's Mama! And he was so funny.